49ers 34, Giants 24. Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host of Football Grump. And the Giants fall to 2-7 on the season, 5-21 over the last two seasons. I scheduled my first Giants have the current draft pick for Monday morning. The stadium was filled with red in week 9. There was another negative plane and a positive one. And this is just where the Giants were. I mean, this game, people who didn't watch the game will say, oh, they lost by 10, 24 points. So this game really was never close, Grump. I mean, the 49ers held the Giants to 10 points through three quarters with zero ability to rush the passer. They had the number 33 rushing offense ran for 160 rushing yards on them, which as bad the Giants run defense is, like 160 doesn't even sound that bad. Mac Jones was able to do essentially whatever he wanted to, with no true wide receiver number one. They weren't able to, pass rush on defense. This was a 3-score game with 4 minutes left before, the Giants scored a touchdown to make this a 10-point game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best way you can say it, and we're going to get into all phases of this, but the best way you can say it is to illustrate that this was not really like a 10-point score loss, is in the fourth quarter, the 49ers ran 8 straight running plays and scored a touchdown with no negative plays whatsoever. They just ran right down their throat. They made no bones about it. And halfway through that drive switched to their backup running back. So that's how bad it was.
Yeah, this team is simply soft. I do want to do this because this is a little bit of a different episode than most, Grump. We may have a special listener because we did the positive plane before the game, and we could do a little bit of talk about that at the end. But if people didn't, we did a fundraiser and for a positive plane. So for the positive plane was Mr. Mara get well soon because he's dealing with cancer, and watch Giants Nation show. So I like to think that maybe he's going to turn in for the first 5 minutes of this, Grump. And because that, I have a special message for John Mara. So I want John Mara, if he's watching right now, to listen closely. Just kidding. He might be listening, but either he's going to realize he was duped last year by saying the 2024 class was great and they're a QB away from being a good team with a healthy Andrew Thomas, or he's going to fall for it again. And, a losing team that lost to the Saints, an injured 49ers, or regressed Commanders, because look at the shiny QB and there's no possible way you can separate them from that quarterback. Or from what I hear is they don't think it's a talent issue. They think it's a coaching issue, and they'll keep Joe, from what I hear these days. Grump, we'll do some more positive plane stuff at the end. I kind of did that whole plane just to set up that joke. I was like, I'm gonna do, Billy Madison talk to John Mara. For people who don't know, we did a 24-hour stream for a positive plane. Almost had to go to Vietnam. We're going to Binghamton, New York in the summer instead. Was going to do it week 4, but there was too many negative planes planned and then canceled. Grump, what do you want to hit on first?
I think I'd rather hit on the defense because I really felt like there was an opportunity to win today if they stuck to their guns and they developed a game plan that would highlight the only strength of that side of the ball, and they just decided not to do that. And I hate to do this thing where it's like, oh, the coaches, if only they did, because like the players didn't execute, and there's going to be plenty to talk about. But like, I would prefer to start with the defense, because I thought it was pathetic.
I like to start with the offense usually. And with Jaxson Dart being like the main thing about this season, you would think we would start with it more. But unfortunately, we keep starting with the defense because it's like, what else do you talk about? I mean, this is 3 straight games of giving up 30-plus points. And I want to frame this too when we talk about because the Giants were injured, right? They had, when you include Micah McFadden, they have 4 starters injured, right? Micah McFadden, Cordell Flott, Paulson Adebo, and Javon Holland. But that's not an excuse, specifically against the 49ers, who are more injured than the New York Giants. But only the strength of this defense was supposed to be the front 7, and only Micah McFadden is missing from the front 7, right? So the front 7's not injured, and they're the worst rushing defense in the NFL coming into this game, and then the number 30 rushing offense gave up, or ran 160 rushing yards on you, right? That's not the fault of the corners being out. If anything, like Corey Black funneled everything back to the inside and did a fairly decent job at that. The back end is where you got diced up, and the injuries are obviously a part of, like, this is probably looks a little better with Agbo, Flaw, and Holland out there, but like that's still not an excuse to be as bad as they were. Like you're filling it with a first round pick in Deonte Banks that you like in year 3 that you traded up for. A second, and then your next backup is Dane Belton, who is a 4th-year player who's been your safety 3 for 4 years now. So you have to have, they've shown some trust in him. And then Corey Black, the 7th-round corner, is really the only guy who's just totally, he should not be put in this position. Where Deonte Banks should be a starter. Belton, Belton kind of is what his role is. And then, the other starters who are healthy are a 2nd-round pick in Tyler Newman and a 3rd-round pick in Drew Phillips. Reasons why you kept your job actually is those 2 guys. So, the 49ers are missing their offensive line, their quarterback, and their top 2 receivers. And they played like, hey, we gotta score points, we gotta play offense. Where the Giants defense just basically bent over and took it. Like they're like, we have Corey Black at corner and Deonte Banks at corner. What else are we gonna do? We're not gonna blitz at all. We're gonna let you run the ball, and that's it. We're just gonna let you do. They basically let the 49ers do whatever they wanted the entire game.
Well, I mean, I would accept the injury excuse maybe if Mac Jones was scrambling away from a pass rush and throwing for 350 yards. There's not one receiver on the Niners offense that had 50 yards receiving. Not one had 50 yards. Distributed the ball to a variety of guys, but leading receivers Jawan Jennings with 41 yards and a touchdown. So I mean, this starts and stops with the fact that they could just run the ball at will, at absolute will.
And they're a bad rushing offense, right? Like we get fooled by Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers logo, and the name Christian McCaffrey. They are the number 30 rushing offense in the NFL.
And for good reason. The offensive line stinks this year. I mean, I watched Matt Hennessy just one-on-one Dexter Lawrence. You know what I mean? Like that shouldn't happen. That's a backup center. You know what I mean? And I can accept a little bit of like a lack of pass rush because Mac Jones was getting the ball out quickly. But they did nothing to accentuate or highlight and put the pass rush in the best possible scenario. Not a lot of blitzing or anything near the line of scrimmage. No stunts, really. Like, they didn't really confuse where the pressure was coming. All things that we talked about in the preview pod, right? And maybe dropping Brian Burns or Kayvon Thibodeau into coverage and bringing the pressure from another spot and give exotic looks and screw around with a bad offensive line. They didn't do any of that. They were just kind of like, well, we're just going to put our best strength against their weakness and that'll work. And then just drop as many guys into coverage as we can because we're bad in coverage. That plan stinks. And that seems to be what happened there.
Yeah. And again, I'm not like of the opinion of like, Shane Bowen could have diced these guys up if he called a better game. Like our front 4, I thought did a bad job in this game when they got opportunities. It wasn't, like they did get the ball out quick, but guys weren't winning a lot, right? Dex won a couple times. Burns obviously had a big win, but Abdul Carter was extremely quiet in this game. Kayvon had a few plays, but like it wasn't a game where like, oh man, these guys are winning. They're just getting the ball out quick. Justin Herbert got the ball out extremely quick, and you could feel the pressure all that game. You never felt that. And, Mac Jones was not pressured very often at all. And part of that was they didn't blitz, they didn't stunt. But it was just like, hey, we're going to sit back and let you get whatever you want offensively. The run game is more about the players. I do think there's a lack of identity of effort to stop the run overall and a lack of seriousness. But like the pass defense, they just sat back in like soft zones, which I think Shane Bowen got this. Like he got because of the end of game stuff. He's like, oh, he's a soft zone guy. It's like, no, we play actually like a ton of man coverage. This is a game where he did just sit back and let them get whatever they want, and it led to Mac Jones. I mean, what did Mac Jones have?
235 yards. 19
yeah, he was 19 of 24, 2 touchdowns. And again, this is a guy who gives you 0 rushing. Like he's the most. Like
he's probably the most immobile quarterback there.
Yeah, like I think he might be more immobile than Joe Flacco. That might be a tough one, but like he's the most immobile quarterback in the NFL, and you just let them. You let him dice you up all game long.
I would even add in that just dropping into soft coverage, there were still coverage busts everywhere, twice on Christian McCaffrey, which is like an inexcusable offense. Like, I understand that you have backups back there, and at one point you have even like Demetrius Flanagan Fowles has to play linebacker because Darius
might be an upgrade,
arguable. But I mean, like the number one guy when you think about I mean, when we were doing our fantasy picks, it's like, okay, so Danny King's picking Christian McCaffrey. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the guy that gets uncovered twice, one on a touchdown, and then the other in a critical situation where, you know, you're down in the fourth quarter and you've got to get a stop on defense. He's just completely uncovered. I think the second time was Corey Black specifically, but the first time I think might have been Bobby Okereke.
Yeah, man to man. He got caught up in a rub, but like, you got to know they love running stuff like that in the low red zone, and it's like you can't just leave Bobby like. You can't do no blitz, no disguise or anything. Like, they just went like, that's where I like man coverage at times, but you got to dress up your man coverage on and third and goal or 3rd and 3 from the 5-yard line. Like, you got to dress something up. And they went just basic man coverage with moderate cushion. They create that traffic. And even if they didn't create that traffic, like, McCaffrey wins that race for Bobby Okereke to the corner anyways. Like, Mac Jones doesn't have the easiest throw possible there, but like, I still think Christian McCaffrey wins that matchup. So it's just like, you know, lack of attention to him where you don't have like a corner falling off to try and play him. It was just very easy for them. And they were just kind of able to hit those in cuts all game long, whether it was against Corey Black, you know, and there was some man to, like, you know, the Jawan Jennings touchdown that he got in man coverage against Corey Black. Which is crazy, man. Think about the timeline of Corey Black, where we're in south of the border and we're talking about the Jets, him signing to the Jets practice squad, and now we're talking about him giving up touchdowns in games that he's started. But overall, it's like, again, yeah, Corey Black gave up a touchdown, but like, the guys who were supposed to be players on this defense and the defense as a whole just kind of stunk. Like, Carter sucked, right? This was Abdul Carter's worst game of his career, and you know, again, Dex makes a play here or there. He wins his one-on-ones, but he is just not – I'm asking him, like, just dominate, dude. Have a dominant performance, right? And it just seems like he's just fine playing his role, right? And we'll watch the film, and I did rewatch it, and I'm like, yeah, Dex doesn't look bad on this, but there's too many moments where it's like, this is an opportunity you could have made a play, and you didn't.
I mean, I thought Dex looked entirely average. There's a couple of plays where he pushed the pocket a little bit, but – just looked very average. You know, in general, I'm just disappointed. You know, you look at this and you see a clear mismatch with their offensive line and this pass rush. And to me, this is like you got to get hands on receivers. You got to take away the quick pass, right? You got to make them hang in the pocket just for long enough. And instead we're backing off. And I mean, I don't want to make this entire show about Deonte Banks just not being good, but I mean, how many times is he just going to be like 4 yards off a receiver, and then even when he drives on the ball, he's there late, and then can't even make a tackle when he's there. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the only guys in the secondary that played decently were the guys you needed to play decently, and there was Newbin and Phillips. That was it.
But the overarching theme of this defense, though, is like the run defense, right? It's just, you know, they have their longest run like of their season, you know, early in the game. And they kind of got away from it in the middle of the game, right? The first quarter, they had 57 rushing yards, and then at the end of the game, they said, you know what? Like, we can, they've done a better job of like stopping the outside the tackle runs, you know, where in the beginning of the game that they were getting their, gashing in there, and then they're like, all right, well, let's just run between the tackles. And I think the drive that just demonstrates that the most is like where the Giants are down 20-10 in the third quarter after they kick that field goal, which I hated that decision to kick the field goal.
That's a whole other thing.
And this is their drive, a 13-yard pass, and these are all in between the tackles. 9-yard run, 10-yard run, 5-yard run, 4-yard run, 2-yard run on 3rd and 1. So even the one bad, you know, low yardage run was successful. 5-yard run, 10-yard run, and then an 18-yard touchdown run where he gets to the second level, and then Deonte Banks just comes in as soft as possible and has another time where he's just a soft player, right? He does not care. It does not matter how many times this guy gets loses an opportunity and then gets an opportunity to reprove himself. Like, he just does not care. Where, like, I would consider cutting him. You know, like, what benefit? Like, send some type of message to this team. And that might be overreacting, where you probably could trade him for some type of pick swap or some shit in the offseason, or maybe even on Tuesday. But, like, what would you do with Deonte Banks? Like, how can you be? You're down to Corey Black and Gerard, or I got to get the right name. Jarek Bernard Converse, like, out at a corner, and it's like Banks is the one that's giving up plays. He's the one that's not playing run defense correctly. Like, it's just a soft defense, man. It's just soft.
Well, I think you have until Tuesday to decide what's going on with Cordell Flott's concussion and Paulson Adebo's whatever it is. Was it a hamstring?
Yeah. Well, again, they're 2-7. This isn't like. Do you think the run defense is going to get better at 2-7? And this is 4 years of this crap, dude. So I just think that's what describes the run defense.
The run defense really also
describes this team is the run defense is just every week, man. Every single week, unless you play a team that's not good at it and doesn't really want to run the ball. Those are the only times where the running defense does good outside the Eagles game.
The run defense, I think at this point, you start seeing the weaknesses straight up the middle. They're just not able to handle the middle, and you see the run, like the rush lanes, just get undisciplined, right? So they'll clog stuff up, and the cutback lane is wide the hell open because everyone's crashing down to make up for the fact that they are weak in the middle. And then by the end of the game, they're just able to run right up the middle because they're just gassed. They're down on themselves, hands on the hips. I think their heads are down, morale's down, and they just can't stop it. There's nothing they can do to stop it because, even when they all come crashing and they leave the cutback wide open and it's like an 18-yard run behind it. So,
and it starts with on the corners of that. That's like where they've given up the big runs, and the 49ers started doing that, and the Giants started picking up on that. And then, like you said, they went to the inside. So it's funny. The Giants are not going to be 32nd in rushing yards allowed per game. They might be, they're right that in yards per carry. But, like, the Bengals keep, like, one-upping them because the Bengals gave up 283 rushing yards in this game, and they were 32nd. I could go look and see what the Bills did.
That's been the common criticism of the Bengals for, like, the last 10 years. They just don't seem to care enough about, like, anything other than skill players on offense.
Yeah. And then so the Bills only gave 79 rushing yards, so the Giants will probably drop back to 31st in overall yards per game. Thank God for the Bengals. Burns had the strip sack that I thought was an Abdul Carter interception at first, but no, he now has 11 sacks in 9 games. So Burns is obviously having a fantastic year. We're at the point with these preview pods, Grump, where I don't think these are hour-long pods. And it's not because of hydration, because guess what? I am so freaking hydrated. Why? Because of Body Armor. And this episode is brought to you by Body Armor. You see it in the background right there, right? I got my Body Armor water. The Body Armor driver today won, Ryan Blaney. Shout out.
Woo.
This episode is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Rewrite your routine and choose better with Body Armor. Body Armor is real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, and no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners with great tasting flavors like strawberry, banana, and orange mango. Body Armor will level up your hydration and grab Body Armor Sports Drink today at your local grocery store. Body Armor. Choose better. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. Will you be glad you did?
I will be glad I did. Yeah.
I'll be glad you did.
Did you have anything else on the defense?
I don't. I do want to take a chance in this ad break. I do see we have some super chats. This is a podcast recording. We're doing it live, but I'm not looking at the actual comments. So I would like to apologize if you did a super chat. I forget to always give that disclaimer beginning of the show. If you want to do it, but we're not doing like Q&A. I really don't, dude. Like, we could sit here and talk about the same thing over. Like, I just don't have anything else. Let's talk about the offense. They scored 24 points. 7 of those points are in garbage time. I know people will try and say that 2 touchdowns of them weren't. And this is what I'll say about Dart, because Dart does have some garbage time points so far. But, like, the drive that gave them 17 points and made it 27-17. That was very good by Jaxson Dart, right? That's part of like the learning progress. And I hope he doesn't like, because they lost this game, not learn from that as that of being a good thing. Because you know, that was a drive like where let me I have the hold on. I have
the play-by-play. You want me to do it?
That got them okay, that got them to with when they scored, they were down 10 with 8 minutes left, right? That's not his fault that the defense gave up another touchdown.
Correct.
Immediately. And you look at the Broncos, right? The Broncos did not panic and just start playing, Hail Mary ball, right? That was like, I love that drive from Jaxson Dart, right? I hope he learns from that and doesn't let the defense discourage him from playing that way. That's the way you need to play when you're down by multiple scores with 12 minutes left. That was a great job by Jaxson Dart. I don't want to hear anyone ever call that garbage time points. The last drive, yeah, they were down by 17 with 4 minutes left when they got the ball back. That's garbage time. But Dart went 24-33, 191 yards and 2 touchdowns, 8 carries for 56 yards and a rushing touchdown. No bad plays that I remember from the broadcast outside of the sack where they're backed up, where he's just kind of got no awareness, and then Thomas's guy runs and hits him in the back. I'm shocked. Even within that, I'm like, great job not fumbling there, because I would have expected it when the guy was running up on you. Do got to do a little watch the film on this, but like Saleh played soft, right? And I know we just talked about Shane Bowen, but the Giants, they worked against the Giants offense because they played soft and there's a lot of short passes. What they did is like, they basically like, hey, the Giants aren't going to put together these nice, well-oiled drives. They're just not, outside of the opening touchdown drive. They're going to have one sack, a rushing play that puts them at 2nd and 10. They're going to throw a quick pass that only gets them to 2nd and 9, and then they're going to get behind the sticks. And that's exactly what happened all game. Like you look at Jaxson Dart 24-33, there was 4 third down passes that were thrown well short of the sticks because that's what the 49ers wanted to do. And that's 40% of the drives where you had them end with, a third down pass that's completed short of the sticks. It just felt very much like they were building half field reads for Jaxson Dart. And the 49ers did a good job covering that. And it was left to either, hey, get the ball to the check down underneath or scramble. And, I think the other half of the third downs were converted by scrambles by Jaxson Dart. And they just did a good job of like containing that and not letting them get killed by that. I just wish they would have put more on the backside of these plays, because you even saw it in the fourth quarter, Grump, where they started hitting those backside in cuts to Darius Slayton. And it's like, man, I wish that they would have put that stuff on the playbook, because the 49ers were taking away the whole front side of passing concepts, and Dart was doing what they asked him to do. But there was always one play that put them behind the sticks.
Yeah, and that's actually something that Dart talked about in the press conference too. I mean, at one point they had a back-to-back false starts, which is just like unacceptable. They are not an offense right now without Malik Neighbors and without Cam Scadaboo and without Daniel Bellinger that is capable of overcoming like consistent 3rd and longs. I mean, from time to time, Dart is able to give you some magic where he can convert like a third and 17, a 3rd and 18 or something by, escaping the pocket or keeping his eyes downfield and drawing guys in to try and tackle him or whatever. But consistently, no, they're not able to do that. They have to be moving forward at all times. And even so, they had some key drops by players that needed to step up. Like Darius Slayton had a big time drop. Theo Johnson had a big time drop on 3rd down.
Yeah.
So there were I also think that Dart didn't do anything like majestic in this game. That's like one of those like bailout sort of plays. I don't know how to describe really what I'm trying to say, but like something that's just like, oh, well, you can't.
The play's dead and he makes a play. The only time I think was that under center play action where I was like, oh my God.
Guys.
He broke 3. I was like, no, come on, dude, throw it away. Please, bro. And then he breaks 3 tackles and run. And
that was the only one.
I think he saw the penalty downfield, and at least maybe that's my cope. I'm hoping that's why he was more willing to hang in there and try and make a play, because he knew there was some type of penalty on it.
One thing I will say that was negative about his game, and it's been pretty consistent this year, not something I noticed from like the scouting report before he was drafted or anything like that. He's not very good at ball placement on like the outside throws to the flat. Like, the wide receiver screen or whatever you want to call
Even
it.
the Theo touchdown was behind
Yeah.
him.
But like Wandale's spinning completely around to try and catch the pass because it's just so far on his back shoulder. Definitely and that one was really bad because he was just getting leveled by like 7 49ers that were rallying to the tackle. But even like he had like, I can't remember if it was Singletary or Tracy kind of threw it again on his back shoulder, and it's just leaving yards on the field.
Yeah, missed Tracy on it was but when they got the ball at the end of this first half off the Brian Burns strip sack, the second down I want to talk about that sequence in a little bit too. He threw it behind him. But again, like I thought he made plays, the fourth quarter touchdown at the end was garbage time, but like those were some nice ass throws, dude. Like the Darius Slayton drop was a beautiful, perfect throw down the field. The Gunnar Olszewski touchdown was beautiful as well. There was other, placement. Getting to, like I mentioned, the backside in cuts, did a really good job on those. It just felt like Robert Saleh out schemed them defensively because they didn't defensively they had and I'll say this, like there's this talk about like getting Jaxson Dart another weapon, and I'm like, you know what, he's had 15 touchdowns in 6 games. Like I think we can get through the season without trading away draft capital. There's one thing that's helping him, man. This offensive line is holding up, dude. It's been pretty phenomenal since he's got in. Like Marcus Bowe gave up a sack. Outside of that, he's been just completely protected. And I think we need to consider that when clamoring for a trade for a wide receiver. Like young quarterbacks don't get broken because they don't have a good wide receiver threat their rookie year. They get broken because they have terrible offensive lines or terrible play calling that messes with their confidence. This offensive line is allowing him to just constantly stay confident. But it just was always like one thing, like the Theo Johnson drop, they're down 17-7. There's 50 seconds left, so there's still a good chance they don't score any points, especially with the way Graham Gano missed a field goal. But like that's a huge third down drop. The Slayton drop touchdown, that really doesn't change anything in the game, but I do think it changes going forward. Like Slayton had 5 catches for 62 yards. He catches that, it's garbage time. It doesn't mean anything, right? But it does mean something going forward, where he comes off a game where he has 6 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown, no drops. And like we need him, right? We need him now more than ever. Not more than ever. 2022, they need them. They're winning games. But like instead of like coming off of a game like that, you lost, but it helps build his confidence back. We're now going into another game where it's like, all right, Slayton drop, right? Three straight games for Slayton with bad drops. The one where he, ducked in the contact last week, this one this week, and then the perfect pass Dart had against the Saints, and then he obviously had the fumble in the Saints, which really compounded it. But that drop, as much as it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, like that hurts confidence going forward, and they need something out of Slayton. They need to get more out of him.
And that was a clear drop too. I mean, if you watch the replay, it's him taking his second hand off the ball to brace himself for hitting the ground. Like, just hit the ground, dude. Just do it. 2 hands on the ball. And it maybe it does, maybe it doesn't mean anything in terms of the game, but let's just say that game is not a 2-score game. That added 3 extra plays. Sorry, not a 3-score game. Let's just say it was a 2-score game, right? You're down 10. That added 3 extra plays to that touchdown drive, not scoring right there. I don't remember how much time that ends up being, but if you recover that onside kick, every last second is going to mean something. So, I don't know. I would just say something stupid like it's the principle of the matter, but it kind of is.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, he needs to step up. Again, I've never expected Slayton to not have drops, but 3 drops in a row, you're not putting up much production, and they need him. And now you mentioned Wandale taking hits. I know a Wandale game where he has 9 catches for 46 yards, which is 5.1 yards per catch. That's usually like a criticism for Wandale. And big picture, it might be. I was actually pretty damn happy with Wandale. I mean, he refused to go down. With
the exception of one play where he ran backwards.
Yeah, but even then, I saw what happened. It wasn't it wasn't a 3rd and 3 where he had the first down by taking 2 steps back. It was a 1st and 10 where he's trying to turn into an 8-yard play instead of a 4-yard play. So I like the fight that I saw out of Wandale Robinson. I don't know. I mean, is there anything?
Well, I mean, do you want to talk about the sequence of play calls after the turnover?
Yeah. Can I say that? I don't hate it.
Okay.
They had all 3 timeouts. I like, so let me get to that with Brian Daboll in my notes. Where is it? Where are you? Where are you, Mr. Notes? Okay, so they ended the half, and if you don't like when they got the ball off the Brian Burns sec, they had 3 timeouts. They had a good run look. I don't hate that, right? You get 8 yards, right, and you have all 3 timeouts. Like, we would have been mad at 8-yard pass, and it just goes for 0 yards. And then the next play, you run like a 3-level read, dart. That's the inaccurate throw that you mentioned to Tyrone Tracy, and then a 3rd and 10 where you're running all curls, which is like a pretty normal 3rd and 10 play when teams are trying to defend the end zone. And they just covered it well, or Dart. I don't know if Dart should have thrown it to somebody else or whatever, but like, I actually didn't hate that. The timeout or the field goal decision when they were down 20-7 with 6 minutes left third. Hate that. I actually didn't hate the end of the half. I think that's a little bit of playing the results.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I do hate the decision to kick a field goal from the 4-yard line of 4th and goal. Obviously, that's a big time, like, we're missing Cam Scadaboo moment. But for how often this team seems to work on red zone plays, they don't really seem to have a whole lot of like real creative red zone winners. And they've been bad in the red zone outside of Cam Scadaboo just hammering home runs up the middle, right? Like, that seems to be the only thing that's helped their red zone efficiency. These, Brian Daboll being a quarterback guy and an offense guy, and he really concentrates on his offense, and Mike Kafka being a whiz kid or whatever, they just don't do well in the red zone, and they didn't do well in the red zone before Jaxson Dart. I don't know. Everything about that was the point in the game where I started feeling apathy as a viewer and as a fan, where I'm just laughing at the game now. It's like, we're kicking a field goal from here now.
Yeah, okay. It makes it 20-10 with 6 minutes left in the third. Okay, so now you take a 2-score game and make it a 2-score game. And I'll never be on the nerd side. We're like, oh, you got to go for it. You got to go for it. I disagree. But you say, oh, do you trust them to get 4 yards? Not necessarily, no. But I just have a lot more faith in them getting 4 yards there and then being in a position where they're down by 6 than going from down 13 to down 10. And then now we got to get multiple stops, multiple more scoring drives. I just have much more faith in that. Again, still probably lose the game if they score a touchdown there.
Of course.
But I just think that gives you a much better opportunity when you go for it there. Because
I also think that
you miss it, you kick the field goal, and guess what happened? You lost by 10 points.
I know it didn't end up mattering, but I think that probably San Francisco's play calling changes too. They're not just going to run the ball 8 straight times after that, even though it worked to great effect. I think that they're probably trying to get some chunk plays, and they're, obviously I would change the whole way the defense was being run in general, but at least you have Mac Jones dropping back to pass, and you did have 2 sacks in this game. And you forced another 3rd down because they're trying to throw swing passes to the outside. Brian Burns deflects that. Like, that's it. Again, it's all playing to your strengths and trying to make them one-dimensional and make them drop back to pass. Don't let them run right down your throat. When you just leave it as a 2-score game still, it lets them do whatever they want. So I just disagreed with the decision.
Yep. Other notes. I do want to talk about this. Did you find it interesting that first game post Cam Scadaboo, Devin Singletary has 8 carries, Tyrone Tracy has 5. Like, this is a guy who had 840 rushing yards as a rookie, and didn't come in as the starter as a rookie either.
Oh, snap. Oh, man, it's just me sitting here.
I had to sneeze. You don't sneeze on camera ever, even if there's a fire. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, we it's funny. Last year, one of my big things is like, stop saying that this draft class is great and that's why they deserve. Like, you're just overrating this rookie class. You have Malik Neighbors, who's a star, absolutely. The rest you're overrating. But I had faith in Tyler Nubin taking a step forward, right? He takes a big time steps back. Tyrone Tracy, though, was the one guy where I'm like, that's a hit, dude. Like a 5th round running back. he put up those yards, and I guess he still kind of is. And now he's not even like getting like the running back 2 carries essentially. Like I just find it like what happened there from Tyrone Tracy to go from a victory lap to now getting less carries than Devin Singletary, who everybody wanted cut in training camp.
I don't know. I thought about this for a little bit, and I wondered, like, did they adjust the offense getting used to what Cam Scatterbo brought to the table? But then I thought about, like, but they also went ahead and drafted Cam Scatterbo. Did they think that this is missing from their game in general? Just like this between the tackle style, like strength runner, which Tracy is not, you know what I mean? Not that he can't run between the tackles, but he is definitely not like a strength runner.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't know. And I also wonder like how different the play calling is and how different the personnel is handled based on the score and game situation, right? Like if this game were tit for tat and it's just, each team with the ball seems to score, it's a tie game. Like, is Tyrone Tracy more in the game or what? I'm really not sure because Tracy did get the initial snaps, right? Like he was the starting running back.
Yeah. So it's just hashtag noticing. Other thing, Graham Gano.
Overall, by the way, we're talking about 8 carries versus 5 carries.
It's just weird though. It's just weird.
Yes.
Graham Gano missed the kick. I got so mad. And maybe we look back and it's like that's his only miss, right? He's 3 or 4 on field goals since returning, right? It's not. He doesn't mean he's injured that he missed that kick. But I was so angry. Whenever you see me tweet all capital letters, boo, that's me actually being angry. Like I was like, my wife might have got scared because I'm just like I was so pissed off. I was like, you gotta be freaking like that's when I turned into Brian Daboll on the sidelines, which I don't know if you saw the headset video of him last week where he's just like that's where I am the same way, where it's like it's where I respect the rage challenge from Brian Daboll because like I do the same thing. Like I'm so angry that I just want to show you how angry I am that I will put on a damn show for you guys. I was so pissed off. Again, it could be us overreacting. They should have never brought back Graham Gano. That's a whole thing. But like in the moment, I was just like, I cannot believe my eyes of what's happening. If that you guys got this blessing of a turnover that just happened to fall in Abdul Garder's hands, you get 0 yards and then you miss the field goal. Like that's the most New York Giants thing I've ever seen in my life.
It really makes me angry to the point where I went back through my Twitter and found an old tweet from October 22nd, where I was last mad about this. And the tweet is the cap savings from ending Graham Gano's contract in 2026 is $4.5 million. And that is roughly the same amount of money that it cost the Cowboys to sign Brandon Aubrey, who is better, to a 3-year deal, all 3 years, and the Lions to sign Jake Bates to a 2-year deal, both years combined. Just the cap savings alone from cutting Graham Gano next year is about the same money as it costs for 5 years of better kickers on other teams. This is an evergreen moment of like anger for me, where it's just always going to touch a nerve because it was so obvious not to do this. And what is the advantage, right? Like the advantage is that like, oh, when he's healthy, he's really, really good. Well, is he? I would settle for that cap money going somewhere else and signing someone to a minimum that just guarantees me that you're kicking extra points good and that from 35 yards to 40 yards, you're like 99%. That's good enough for me. For the rest of the team to get better and then worry about getting an advantage kicker when you actually have a good team. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, Yeah.
I was people are like, oh, Ryan Fitzgerald just hit a game winner for the Panthers, but then he missed extra points today, so I can't do the Ryan Fitzgerald victory lap today. The press conference, really nothing in it besides the fact that Pat Leonard was like, are those tears of emotion? And Brian Daboll's like, what? He's like, who? He's like, those tears. And Brian Daboll's like, wait, what is your question again? He's like, it looked like you were crying when you came in. He's like, no. And I went back and rewinded. I was like, was Brian Daboll crying? and he definitely wasn't crying. But now, like, Pat Leonard has like messed with my head to where I'm like, maybe I just can't see it through their cameras that Brian Daboll was crying.
Well, the room is really dark. It is. It's not like you have like a good camera angle of it.
Should that be a Twitter poll? I have too much.
Was Brian Daboll crying?
As much as I want Brian Daboll fired, I have too much respect to just like run with that, like
shit all over his manhood. Yeah,
yeah. Like he was. It's like I don't know. Unless I actually saw him crying, let me find the clip and play it for people. It's not even great audio either.
While you're looking for that, I did think that it was interesting that Jaxson Dart kind of spoke about things they need to get better on. Is like he essentially said like not getting down on themselves. Like occasionally the other team is going to have a really good play. You can't just get down on yourself, and it just speaks to the larger like losing culture on the team, whether it's among the coaches, among the players, or both. The locker room is just devoid of leadership, and it's a little eye-opening when a rookie says that.
Yeah, they definitely. I mean, there's a losing culture, obviously. I mean, even Jaxson Dart's dad was in my replies arguing with somebody who was like, he should not take these hits, and he's like, oh, what? And he should buy in with the losing culture. It's like, obviously, that's conversation. Here's the Brian Daboll crying or not crying.
Brian, are those tears of emotion, or is that just you? I just said what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you're saying. You walked in here, it looked like there were tears coming out of your eyes. No. Not just allergies? No. No, it wasn't tears.
He's just like, what? There was, obviously, I never try to read into too much press conferences too much, but this was the press conference where there just felt like this is an inevitable march towards the end for Brian Daboll, and we're not going to do too much big picture stuff on a Week 9 recap podcast, and that's the pain of the middle of a season of this, where I just refuse to just turn everything into like the GM sucks, the head coach sucks, but it is true. It just feels like we're marching towards the end of the season when people get fired, or maybe person gets fired. I don't know.
It's bad too because, like I had said earlier, that like this is the last one on the schedule that like there's a way to win this game. That's the games that are coming up in the next couple of weeks towards the bye. It's really difficult to like manufacture a pathway to a win.
Yeah, I mean the Bears are a mess, but like Packers, Lions, and I know the Packers just lost to the Panthers. Like it's the NFL, but it's just like
I'm just saying when you go to do the matchup,
those games,
yeah, when you go to do the matchups, it's like here's how you win or whatever. It's like for those, it's like, well, someone's going to have to be better than I expect because
it's going to be a surprise.
And by midway through the third quarter of this game, I was like, oh, can this just end? Like I already know how this game is going to end. This is a damn mess. Like not only do I not want to watch the end of this, I don't want to have to rewatch it to this episode later. And like that's the game that I think that they could have won. Like how is the next couple of weeks going to go? So yeah, it does feel that way, right? Like that we're just marching towards the end here.
So we basically hit on everything. So we did the plane before the game. I didn't want to spend 5 minutes talking about the plane at the beginning. I did want to make the joke of doing the, hopefully people I thought it was funny when I did the whole Billy Madison thing. Hopefully John Mara, I do think there's a very real chance John Mara watched. At least I know some of his family members did.
Yeah, and that's probably the end of it right there.
Which is what I love about it. Like, I think a lot of people would be like, they need to hear what we think. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But so this plane, people like, this was to give the backstory. I'm sure most people listening at this point know is I did a 24-hour stream in July to do a positive plane just to promote the show, make some type of joke, right? And was just like, didn't know what the message was. At one point, we were going to be like, the plane was just going to say, here, look, it's a positive plane. Listen to the Giants Nation show. And then when we had the run-in with Bob Papa, we had the plane planned as a plane for fans, by fans, listen to Giants Nation show with the Bob Papa stuff.
I'm so sad that didn't happen.
And then there was all these negative planes scheduled for the Chargers game. There was 3 of them. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not getting my plane buried by 3 other planes. And it was the Jaxson Dart first game. I want to focus to be there. So I'm like, all right, let me save it. And then the plane company was like, Thursday night, you don't want to do it for a night game. Like, okay. And then I saved it for this one. And so once the John Mayer cancer news came out, we kind of knew, like, all right, this is what it needs to be. Well wishes to John Mayer, and then watch. Obviously, there's got to be some self-promotion in it. Because, the listeners, what we did on the stream is the listeners donated. And then when they donated, they put live show city locations for us to do. And we almost had to go to Vietnam, but instead we're going to Binghamton, New York. And sometime in the summer. So I saw a lot of people like, wait, Binghamton? What does Binghamton have to do with anything? So
Nothing.
Make sure to watch out for that. But I like the plane. Obviously, I wish that wasn't the message, to be honest. Obviously, I wish John Mayer was just healthy. But that's what it was, and I thought it was a nice plane, and also, very funny. I did notice the negative New York media was not in a rush to tweet post about it when it wasn't a negative plane.
Really? And that was how I first saw it. Was I wasn't even sure it was already up because it seemed earlier than I was expecting.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know when it was up too. But there was also a negative plane that said to clean house.
Yeah, that one came second.
Yeah, which I kind of buried the negative plane because people were like, "Oh, the positive plane already happened." We're not,
So when you order that, like, you don't give like what do they just like give you like a time frame?
You would think.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Say no more.
I definitely didn't, email being like, "Hey, can I get some like tracking information on this?" And whatever. But it worked out perfectly. So I'm glad it was before the negative plane.
Yeah.
So it's so no more planes from us. I think the 24-hour stream is something we might do every year, but it's not going to be for a plane, and maybe at least for like 20 years or whatever. When we're still making jokes, and it's like Tim McDonald owns the team, and I was like, Tim McDonald, I want you to listen closely. And anything else?
Yeah. One last thing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Anything else besides that? Unless
I guess last thing, it is sort of game related. Do you think there's any trade implication for Jalen Hyatt doing kickoff returns, or do you think that was simply, which is what other people speculated, that the fact that they were going to lean on Devin Singletary more and Deonte Banks more in this game? I don't think Deonte Banks has anything to do with that.
I do think it has to do with that. I also think it's just like, just give him something to do. Like, it's
pretty clear it doesn't work.
I forget. We usually do that on this episode, is like guys traded. So do you think, instead of going one by one, do you think any New York Giants are traded, or the Giants make any trades by Tuesday at 4:00?
My gut says no. It is certainly possible. It's not an easy answer, I don't think. But my gut says no.
I will celebrate a 6th and 7th round pick swap where the Giants get a 2026 6th-round pick and they trade away their 2028. I will celebrate it. I just don't see it happening. And I think they're out of 7th round. I don't think they can trade 3 years into the future, right? So I don't even know if they can trade a 7th round pick because they don't have a 7th round pick this year or next year. I got to look that up. So I don't think anything's happening. I will say this. I'm pretty out on trading for a receiver now that it doesn't seem Jalen Waddle's available unless it's a blow-you-away trade, and I'm not doing that.
Wait, is that the news? I thought the news was that because of the interim, he's actually now on the table.
Yeah, but they're saying it's very unlikely. Like, it'd have to be a first and a player. Or like, it basically would have to start with a first. And I'm not trading away our first-round pick, obviously.
No.
So, all right, last thing before we go, just want to give a shout-out to one of our loyal listeners, watchers, Eddie Can't Stop. His father passed away today. He let us know. So we're thinking of you, Eddie. We appreciate you. He's part of the pregame live show chat, so he's an A1 from a day one. So shout out to him. So we'll be back. Breaking Big Blue with Jordan tomorrow. Mailbag on Wednesday. Recapping if anything happens at the trade deadline. If anything big happens, we'll obviously go live shortly after that. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Until then, let's go Big Blue.